What's the difference between Marxist materialism and reductive types of materialism? Beautiful question. Marx's materialism has a different view of material being. The reason I'm a Heideggerian is because I consider this issue of being to be what is at the heart of Marx's materialism. Similar to Heidegger, when we speak of being, we're not speaking of a ready-made substance of some kind. We're not speaking of a being. We're not speaking of a being ready at hand as a being. We're speaking of being as such. Being as such. Like, what is real as such? The terms of that realness cannot be predefined already. We cannot say, for example, that if we can feel something, it's real. If we can see it, it's real. To me, that's substantialism. So being is at the heart of how to understand the difference between Marx's materialism and the reductive kind. When you pass through Heideggerianism and this revival of the question of being, what it is which is material being is discovered as just a way of saying the real content of being. The content of being. And saying that it's material implies that that content, that materiality, is not immediately evident to us in knowledge. It's somehow coming at the expense of appearance and form and ideation or something, and our ideal. It comes at the expense of that. So to me, the material doesn't refer to a substance. The material, though being substantial, inevitably having the quality of some kind of substantiality, the material is what orients us to what is the real content of something. The real content. And how to understand its reality is a question of finitude. It's a question of our finitude in relationship to it. What is so real about the proletariat, guys? Marxist proletariat. What is so real about that? I'll tell you what's real about it. It's our limit as a society. We have this proletariat coming into existence, and no matter how hard we try, it's a paradox we can't get around. So the object of materialism you can also think of as a paradox, a limit, or an antinomy, something like that. I know technically speaking it's none of those, but I just want to make you think of it that way. Instead of being some type of substance. That is what is material. And the reason it's material is because it's real, even it's real before or in a way that's primary to the way we give it form. So Marx's materialism is very, very different from the Anglo-Saxon empiricism. It's nothing. I mean, Marx said that, to be fair, England is the birthplace of materialism, but only accidentally. It's because material objectivity was disguised in the form of this initial, very primitive encounter with some kind of reality that is outside of our, pretty much just outside of our pre-established and predefined horizon of meaning. Okay? But it takes an initial primitive and crude form, which collapses upon itself and, as Engels pointed out, devolves into metaphysics. Okay? So the dialectical significance of Marx's materialism isn't just adding some nuance to English empiricism. It is a fundamentally different, has fundamentally different ontological implications. Guys, once you understand Marxism, materialism this way, you've just made sense of the 20th century. Freud's unconscious immediately makes sense. Freud's unconscious is defined in the same fucking way in relation to our consciousness. Heidegger, obviously, makes total sense. I go as far as saying Einstein then makes total sense. Einstein is part of that revolution in the 20th century, to me. Freud, Heidegger, Einstein, and then who else? Lenin. These four are part of the same revolution in the 20th century. That should allow us to rethink Marx's original discovery and dialectics. Because, listen, why did I mention Lenin right now? Because Lenin relates to the materiality of what the proletariat is in the same fucking way. What's the paradox of Leninism according to BreadTube? Well, it's not the working classes, it's a vanguard. So this whole metaphysical issue of material reality and how it's mediated by our consciousness, all this dumb shit is already at play here.